going to be epic, guys. Basically what we're doing, for those of you that don't know, is we're taking all the awesomeness of DJ Hardem on Tuesdays, right? We're moving it to Wednesday for middle school. High school is going to remain on Tuesday, so it's going to be just as awesome on Tuesday, but we're doubling the awesomeness onto a Wednesday. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to get bigger, it's going to allow us to get better, it's going to allow our high school group to grow, it's going to allow our middle school group to grow. It's going to be really awesome, okay?
I may be biased, but I'm pretty sure that the middle school is going to be way better.
Awesome. Awesome. Alright guys, so just so you know, expect that, okay? Expect that coming in January. We'll have more updates for you. In the meantime, middle schoolers, if you're in middle school, let's go ahead and stand up. We're going to go through these doors here, and we're going to go into the student room. High schoolers, go ahead and move towards the middle for me. If you're in high school, move towards the middle. Thanks guys.
Cold, sir.
And it dawned on me.
Afraid, are you?
No, sir.
Fear
See for you. We can.
is not real.
You're not afraid of the dark, are you?
It is a product of our imagination.
What do you think? Darkness is your ally. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but bright.
Causing us to fear things that do not present and may not ever exist.
Step right back.
Danger is very real, but fear is a choice.
Fear is the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I sense much fear in you.
How's it going, everyone? So it's election day, and everyone's really afraid of anyone who takes office, I'm pretty sure, except for Ryan. I think he's pretty excited. You know, maybe I should have started with a more political video, but what could be more political than Star Wars? Anyone? Nerds? Nerds? Shout out. Guys, for those of you who don't know me, I don't know if we have new people out there, but my name is Bryce Newberger, and I'm used to preaching to 4th and 5th graders. So if I seem kind of nervous or not in my element, if someone could just pick their nose and eat it, just go for the gold. That would really make me feel at home. So Zach, I know you got me. But guys, we're talking about fear tonight. And Mike talked about fear last week, and he talked about how perfect love casts out fear. My words, not his, but basically, it was the idea that the amount that you love is the amount less that you will fear. Your fear level determines your love level, vice versa. So the amount you fear, well, consequently, the less you're loving. It was a very complex thought, and pretty awesome that he established that, like, mix between fear and love. And I want to dive a little deeper into that tonight. So let's start off by praying. Thank you, God, for tonight. Thank you for DJ Hardem. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us here. Lord, help us to hear your voice today, God. Don't let us hear some message that I drummed up, Lord, but let us hear what you have to tell us, God. Help me speak what you have to say and help us receive it, God. Open our eyes, our ears, and our hearts. In Jesus' name, everyone said, amen. All right, guys. So, talking about fear, I was challenged this week to think about all of the times I've been afraid. I'm like, okay, series on fear, and my number one fear is that my mic would go out in mid-sentence, and it happened. No, my number one fear, I was writing it down and I was thinking about it, and I was like, come to think of it, I've never been afraid. Because I'm so brave. Just so brave. I'm kidding. I'll cry like a little girl. And I'll explain this beautiful story. Once upon a time, I was about 10 or 11 years old. I think I was like in 4th grade. And my brother wants to go outside. My middle brother, he's a year older, Brian. Not that Brian, but my Brian. And he wants to go out and he wants to throw the football. That's what we do. So we go out and we throw the football. And then all of a sudden, if this was a stage, the bullies enter the scene. I feel like every neighborhood, at least in my day and age, had your neighborhood bully. And if you didn't have a neighborhood bully, the cosmos were like not aligned. And the government would send a letter to like some not well-adjusted family and be like, hey, can you please send your children to this community to terrorize people? And then all would be right. So as we're going to, there's these 3 guys, they're a lot older than me and my brother. Again, we're 4th and 5th graders. These guys are like 7th or 8th graders, maybe freshmen. Just kidding. No one's afraid of freshmen. Anyway, so as they approach, they present us with this business deal that they've drummed up. And it's an exchange of goods, if I may. They walk up to us and they say, give us your football. This is well put together, well thought out. I like where they're going with it, like the energy that they brought. And I was thinking, okay, let's think about this transaction. I give them the football, I go into my house and do chores, maybe clean my room, some homework. Seems good. As I'm about to accept their offer, my middle brother, who's the feisty one, Brian, he steps up because he's older, and he respectfully rejects their offer by saying, no! So they handled rejection well, actually. These guys were pros at this. They simply just walked up and took the football and pushed him down. So I realized an exchange of goods has happened, and I must fulfill my part of the bargain. I must go to my room, do some chores and some homework. I mean, this is pretty sure what we subconsciously agreed on. So as I'm about to walk inside, live to fight another day, or die another day, however that goes. My brother Brian, he comes up with this master plan, this master strategy to beat these bullies. And he doesn't tell me his plan, but we're so close, we're practically twins, I can feel the connection. So he walks up behind one of the guys as they're like playing with the football, and he punches them in the back. 5th grader punches like an 8th grader. So the guy exploded. I'm just kidding. He laughed. And so he like wraps my brother's arms behind him. And then the other 2 guys begin to pummel my brother in the stomach, in the chest, and the facial regions. So as I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, this is the plan. This is what we agreed on, like subconsciously. He didn't tell me this, but I get it. My job right now is to huddle into the fetal position and cry. So I held up my part of the bargain. And so, as I'm doing this for a while, I realized the plan's not working. We should rework things. So, I decided I'm going to be a think for myselfer. And I get up, and I'm like, sorry, Brian, but here we go. And I run up to one of the guys, and I bear hug him. I don't know why. I don't know what we're supposed to do. But, surprisingly, the warmth from my heart went through his skin, into his nervous system, into his heart and his brain, and changed the way that he saw the world. And he never bullied anyone ever again. I'm just kidding, he sat on me. And so, as he's sitting on me, it was quite comfortable, for him, not for me. But as I'm there, I begin the whole weeping thing that I was like, okay, sorry, back to the plan. And so, he gets bored of sitting on me, they go back to beating up my brother. And I remember being hopeless. Lost, scared. Here are these guys, they're bigger than us, they're stronger than us, and they outnumber us. My brother's the feisty one, and he's getting destroyed. They're treating him like a meat pinata, which is when you put meat inside of a pinata. You should actually try that. But anyways, it breaks, and it's like, bacon! Okay, so, as this is going on, I have an epiphany, which means an idea. Again, 4th and 5th graders, I can't use those words, so I'm getting them out. Okay, so I go inside, and sitting on the couch is my oldest brother, who's about a sophomore at this time. And he's not just older than these kids, but my brother Brent has a reputation at this time. You see, he married his high school sweetheart, and they're husband and wife now. And I asked him, I said, tell me how you guys met in high school. She's like, well, okay, let me think about it. First memory of Brent about his brother. She's like, well, he had one guy in a headlock, the one guy on his shoulder, he was stepping on him. He was just a fighter, it's just who he was. And he had a reputation. There's another time where I'm like a little older, I'm driving my little bike that my brother bought me, and this guy stops me and starts grinding my speed gears. You don't do that to a bike, right? You know, you feel me pointing. And so I'm like, stop, I'm gonna tell my older brother, Brent. He's like, whoa, hold on a second. What name did you say? I was like, Brent. He's like, oh, Brent. Right, Newberger is your last kiss. I knew your name, I didn't put them together. He's your brother. I'm so sorry. I was just joking. I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna tell you my name. True story, it happened. He ran. So my brother had this reputation. So I go into my brother Brent, and he's watching like an 18. And I know it's cool. And as he's sitting there, I go, Brent, there's some guys outside, and they want to talk to you. Now, I don't know why I didn't tell him the truth. All I could muster to say was, there's some guys who want to talk to you. I was pretty afraid at the time. But we're close as well, so he gets me. He translates my little brother language to say, hey, B, some messed up stuff is going down outside. Brian's outside being treated like a human meat pinata. He's about to bust. Go, go, go. So Brent gets up, and he starts doing this thing. When he gets in fights, he always did it. And when I grew up, when I got in fights, I did too. But he's like, this thing, his arm, does nothing. I learned martial arts. They don't teach you this. And so, like, as he gets up, he starts walking out, he's like, just like, kind of like loosening his arms, you know? Not really, it doesn't do anything. But he goes, I was very intimidating. And as he walks out, the three guys are like, they're punching my brother, and oh, Brent. So they didn't know who our older brother was. Like, hey, Brent. And they start like backing up, and Brent's just like, what's going on? And then my brother Brent treated them in kind. Means he beat them up. So as this happened, I remember just being saved that day. We're talking about fear. What does that story have to do with fear? Absolutely nothing. I just love my brother Brent, and I love to brag on him. Just kidding, it all ties in. Stick with me. Okay, so guys, we're going to turn in your Bibles to Luke chapter 7, 36. The one person brought their Bible there? There you go. You go eat sushi, you bring some chopsticks. All right, bring your Bible to church. All right, Luke 7, 36. Here we go. It's going to be on the screen. When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who had lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, I'll explain that, it's a weird thing. She began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. Then the Pharisee who had invited Jesus saw this. He said to himself, this man, if he were a prophet, he would know who was touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she's a sinner. Jesus answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. Jesus begins this parable. Two people owed money to a certain money limit. One owed 500 denarii, the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of them both. Now, which one of them will love him, the master, more? Simon, being a smart man, replies, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. Jesus says, you judge correctly. He turned towards the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you, her sins have been forgiven, as great love has shown. But whoever's forgiven little, loves little. Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Now, a lot of times when we read the Bible, we hear things like this, and we have no idea what we just read. It's a lot like when you see a car accident, you're like, what just happened? Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. There's a few cultural things that you won't get unless I tell you. So, I'll explain like this. It's as if Judah Smith came to town. Now, for those of you who don't know who Judah Smith is, I love him. He is Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez's old youth pastor. He's also the main pastor to the Seattle Seahawks. He goes with them to all their away games. They have chapels. He prays before the games. He's a very famous preacher. So it'd be like if he was invited to come speak somewhere in Glendale. And then you have Mike Cerati, who does an equally important job of pastoring you lost people. And every week he's pouring into you guys, and he's like the local pastor. And he hears Judah Smith's coming to town. And so they have an acquaintance, and they're like, hey, tell you what. Mike's like, Judah, why don't you come over to my house? We're going to have some dinner. They would sit at the table, they would probably talk about God, the law, how the Cardinals and the Seahawks mesh, and I'm sure that's biblical. And as they're having these biblical conversations, it'd be as if we were all invited to come sit down around the table and watch. Now, for those of you who are really into this stuff, that would be an awesome conversation, just to get to hear Mike and Judah talk about things that we could only hope to understand, and you just pick up what like little morsels that you could understand. Well, there would be a few things culturally that we would expect Mike to do, right? So, in the Jewish culture, you're going to sing about kissing and oil on feet and washing feet and oil on head, and you're like, what is going on? I can't get into this. This day and age, we have culture and things that we would do that would confuse them equally as much. For example, when Mike would get to the door, he'd open it for Judah. He'd take his coat, take his shoes, coat in Arizona. He would take his coat, take his shoes, if that's the kind of place. He'd invite him in, he'd offer him a seat, offer him a drink, that kind of thing. Maybe shake his hand, maybe give him a hug. That would also be kind of weird in the Jewish culture. They'd look at you like you're freaks. So it's the same kind of thing. If Jesus, or when Jesus entered the Pharisee's house, the first thing Simon would do is he would give Jesus a kiss. It was the common greeting. If he considers himself an equal with Jesus, he's going to kiss Jesus on the cheek. If he considers himself lesser than Jesus, he's going to kiss Jesus on the hand. If he considers Jesus to be a great celebrity, what he's going to do is he's going to line up his entire house, and everyone's going to offer Jesus a kiss as he walks in, if he's really respected. The next thing that would happen is when people come in a house, they take their shoes off or their coats or something, right? Like, you're going to burn up inside, don't die. And so what they did back then is they had sandals on their feet and dirty roads and it was dusty. And so what they would do is they'd wash their feet. Now, if he's a common person, just a nobody, he would be given water. Wash your own feet, come on. He'd be given some water to wash his feet. If he was a person of great respect, he would have a servant wash Jesus' feet. They could wash his feet. If he thought Jesus was amazing, and I don't know, maybe God himself, he would get down and he would wash Jesus' feet himself. The last thing is that Simon, being a preacher of the area, a holy man, he has the right to bless people. That's what they do. In fact, people still bless each other with oil to this day. It's just very rare. And so what would happen is Simon would do this, he'd break out some oil, he'd bless Jesus on the head, and he'd say, our community recognizes you as a great man of God. Thank you for coming. We love you. Jesus doesn't get any of this. So as Jesus walks in, none of this happens. What does that mean? Well, in our culture, what that means, it'd be as if Judah Smith walks up to Mike's house, and he's like, this is the address? Okay, he knocks on the door. No answer. Judah Smith sits there for a second. He's like, knocks one more time. No answer. So Judah gets a little bit concerned, a little awkward. He looks through the window. He sees Mike and his family sitting down eating. He's like, hey. And then Mike looks up, rolls his eyes, whispers something to little Isaac. And little Isaac goes, come in! And so then Judah Smith would open the door. It's unlocked. And as he walks in, he finds that the family is already halfway through eating dinner, and there's no chair left at the table for him. It'd be very awkward. If you were invited to someone's house like that, you'd be like, did I do something wrong? Did you orchestrate this just to make fun of me? Because I feel like you did. So what would happen is that I would push it further, because that's not severe enough. It's not. So it would then be like as if Judah Smith walked up to Mike and said, did I do something wrong? And Mike would just slap him right across the face. Now, first of all, Mike, I get that you're a Cardinals fan, he's a Seahawks fan, but there's no reason you should be treating Judah Smith like that, okay? Just chill, bro. I'm kidding. Mike would never do that to Judah Smith. So, what goes on is we would all infinitely understand how unwelcome Judah Smith is. And pretend we're all there watching, we're like, is this man a Satanist? Like, what's going on? And so, this happens to Jesus. And the community back then is smaller. Word gets around much faster. the community didn't have as much acreage as we do today. So word travels fast, and what would happen is people would start whispering and gossiping. And then in no time at all, within seconds of this happening, the whole community would know the great, great shame and disrespect that Jesus had suffered. Now here's the thing, if Jesus is a self-respecting man, he'll walk. He maybe defends himself. He'll maybe just not even show up expecting this to happen. The bottom line is he definitely didn't want to stay. So what does Jesus do? He sits down. And he gets to eat. At a humble area with dirty feet. At this point in time, a woman walks into the room. And it gets very awkward. What is she doing here? You see, there's a lot of fear going on here. Rhyme not intended, I just got the flow. Okay, let's go. So, here's what happens. There's a lot of fear going on here. The first thing is a fear of a social circle. Now, she doesn't belong in this situation. Why? Because she's a woman. Chill, I'll get there. Hold on, don't kill me. So, what's going on is that in that day and age, women didn't have school as long as boys. They'd go be a homemaker. It's the culture, hate them. So, what's going on is, it'd be as if like Nick Mulligan was invited who works at Peter Piper Pizza, and he's invited to go sit with a bunch of lawyers at dinner. And all the lawyers are sitting here talking about the law and tariffs and whatever, I don't know. And then Nick Mulligan's like, hey, I just want to talk about the movie Lincoln Lawyer. No? I don't belong here, do I? So it's the same thing. She walks in, and she doesn't belong there. See, it's like when I worked at Hollister when I was growing up. It was like one of my first jobs. And I was representing the H-Co crew. And as I get off of work, I have some friends of all walks of life, and they want to go to Hot Topic. So I'm like, sure, I got a topic. It could be hot. So as we're going, I walk in, and I got my H-Co shirt. It's kind of tight. I got my H-Co jeans, and I got some white Converse. I'm looking slick. So I walk in, and the lady at the counter is sitting there with like black makeup, like black corset, black fishnet, black nails, and black blackness and a black soul. And she stares at me. Now mind you, I had friends who looked just like her. We were cool. But she saw how I looked, and she saw me walking in here. She knew I worked at Hollister, and she stared at me. And I kid you not, I said out loud, I was like, oh. And everyone stops and looks. I was like, I don't belong in here, do I? And her eyes narrowed. And I thought, and I was like, okay, guys, I'm gonna wait outside. I'm gonna wait outside, I'll meet you outside. So, and I waited outside until my friends were done. I knew infinitely clear I did not belong there. But see, her situation is even worse, because she's not just like an unschooled person in an awkward situation, but she's a sinner. So let me explain what sinner means. Sinner doesn't just mean a person who makes bad choices. No, back then, sinner was a term for a certain group of people. See, she was a prostitute. She was equal to like tax collectors, people who robbed and stole their money under legal reasons. They were encouraged to hate these people. They were taught that. They were told, no, that's not biblical. That's just what the Pharisees had twisted things to be. But they were told to hate these people. She was a blemish on their small society. As long as she was there was a black mark over all of them. What's she doing here? So she walks in this awkward situation where she doesn't belong. She walks up to Jesus. She begins to cry. Now let me explain. It says she walked up behind Jesus and started weeping at his feet. They didn't sit in chairs and tables like this. It's a Middle Eastern culture. Stick with me. So what happened is that they sat down like this at their food, and they ate kind of like that, pita bread and some chips. So as they're doing that, it was also on an elevated plane. So Jesus kind of sitting down like up here, and then she walks behind the elevated plane at his feet. She begins to cry. Now, fear of social circles, first thing she had. The second thing is she walks up to Jesus' feet. Let me explain what an open sewer system is. You guys know what that is. That's when they pour poop in the streets. Because there was no flushable toilets back then. So like, oh, you took a dump, here you go. And they just threw it out, and then like, you'd be walking, it'd get on your feet sometimes, it was gross, it was disgusting. It was like eating next to dirty hands if your feet are here, right? You know? You don't do that. It's worse than dirty hands. It's poo-poo feet. So, what happens? You guys are just like, it works with any age. Okay, so anyways, as you guys, as she walks up to these feet, they're dirty, they're smelly, they're nasty, they're gross. She begins to cry over them. And let her tears get them wet. Then she kisses the feet. This is something you do to a king that you hated, that you captured as an enemy. Likely before you kill him. It's the most humble thing you can do. It's humiliating. It's disgusting. She walks up and she begins to cry over these feet and kiss them and hug Jesus' feet. She can't kiss him on the hand. She can't kiss him on the cheek because she's a prostitute. It would be taken wrong. People won't understand. It's the most humble thing she can do for Jesus. And then, what we have here is the fear of the grotesque. Have you guys ever been so, disgusted by something? So gross. You have, and then, when it matters, you got, a friend who's vomiting, and you're, sick at school, oh, honey, don't, let's take you to the nurse's office, in the bucket. So, when you love someone, you have to overcome that. It's the same thing here. But then so the fear of the grotesque is another thing we all very much deal with. But here's the thing. There's another fear going on here. Yeah, no rhyme intended. She lets her hair down. What does that mean? In this culture, in this society, a woman's hair is the most valuable thing that she owns. It's like today we value certain parts, consider them beautiful, things like that. But back then, for that culture, it was the hair. And guys, if you see my wife's hair, it's like a cascade of gold. A sunset. I just stare at it sometimes. Anyways, I can always figure out a crowd of blondes, so that one. But anyways, so their hair is their pride and joy. It's the most valuable thing that they have. Well, she lets her hair down. You see, in this culture, if you let your hair down in front of a man who is not your husband, you can be put to death. It's the same thing as adultery to them. It's a sexual act. Yeah, I said it, I suppose. So anyways, no more than 5th graders. Okay, so, she lets us down. This is very humiliating. Have you ever had that dream where you're at school and you're naked? And you're like, nope, something went wrong in this dream. So, for her to let her hair down like that is the same humiliating act. It's shameful what she's just done. But she doesn't have any way to dry Jesus' feet, so she begins to touch the most valuable part of her body to the most disgusting, most despised, most filthiest part of Jesus' body, his feet. She begins to wipe the most valuable part of it. She doesn't stop there. However, that's the fear of humiliation. So right now we got social circles, we got grotesque, we got humiliation. I want to make sure I'm going in order. I believe the next one that I'm going to say, tease it to me. Tease it to me. Fear of possession. So she takes an alabaster flask of oil, she pours it over Jesus' feet. Sounds inconvenient, honestly, gotta be honest with you. But here's what it is. Back then, again, this woman's a prostitute. There's no showers really back then. You can't bathe all the time. You can't go home and take a shower. It just doesn't work that way. So these women, in order to ply their trade, the nice way of saying it, they would use perfume to sweeten their breath and sweeten the way that they smell. I'm not going to attract very many customers without it. She takes this, it's the most valuable possession she possibly has. She pours it over Jesus' feet. Now, here, she's not only anointing Jesus like Simon should have done, and she can't do it publicly, she can't say the community recognizes you, thank you, Jesus, but she can say, through this act, Jesus, you are my Savior, you are my Lord, and you are my Master, and I will anoint you the best way I know how. She's not only doing that, but she's burning down